Jagex just announced some major updates at the Winter Summit that are coming soon to the game, and I think they're going to have some insane economic impacts on the game. In this video, I'm going to discuss the economic impacts that these updates will likely have, what items are most likely going to be in high demand going forward, and my personal action plan on how I'm looking to make money from these updates. Now, a big disclaimer first, this is not investment advice. This is just my opinion on where the economy is going with these future updates, and that's what my whole channel revolves around. So, for transparency and to avoid conflicts of interest, I am not currently invested in any of the items that I mentioned in this video. If you decide to invest, it is 100% your decision, and I am not responsible for any gains or losses that you may incur. You got it? Good, now let's get into it. The first update that I thought was honestly the most hype out of all the updates was the Way of the Forester. When this update got announced, I was super excited because not only do I think it's going to be a cool update, but I knew it was going to have a positive impact on the economy. I'm not going to touch too much on how the update is going to work, but I am going to talk about the economic side of things, and the first thing that stood out to me immediately was that Mod Squid was claiming that the rewards are going to span out into other areas of the game and to other skills. And also on top of that, other items from other skills would be needed in forestry itself. Mod Squid talked briefly on a tea making part of the forestry update, which I thought was interesting because he mentioned that herb lore would be needed for this, and I think that this announcement in general is going to be a huge economic boost for the herb lore, woodcutting, and crafting markets in the long term. This is a really smart update from Jagex and a really smart update to incorporate a modern economy into an old game just using one skill, and that's going to keep the demand of 3 separate skills a lot higher. Now, to point out the obvious, the Way of the Forester seems like a massive update to the woodcutting skill, which is already a very pigeonholed and straightforward skill, which means demand for woodcutting is going to be sky high as it's really not that broad of a skill. The first item that I immediately thought of when this update was announced was the Crystal Tool Seed. I think this item is going to go up insane amounts of price in the coming months here, and it's only because it's the best in-slot tool going into this update. Currently, there's no other option but the Crystal Tool Seed if you're trying to chop logs quickly, which means I think this is going to get insane investment in the coming months. I looked at the Crystal Tool Seed immediately when I started hearing about this update, and it had already jumped up 2 mil in price when it was announced, and is currently sitting at about 10.7 mil, which is still 700k higher than prior to the announcement. I'm going to keep a close eye on the Crystal Tool Seed price going forward because, again, this is just that one item that is likely to get a lot of investment. Another item I thought that would be worth mentioning too is the Dragon Axe, which also had a price increase of about 33%, going from 40k to 60k during the live stream. Now, I don't think the Dragon Axe is as good of an investment because there is already a ton of Dragon Axe supply in the game, and it's really just not rare enough to see a large price run up. That being said, it is a great cheap alternative investment for players that might have a lower cash stack. Now, not everything is butterflies and rainbows with the Way of the Forester update. There was 2 major concerns that I saw as well that could really hurt the economy, and the first thing was it was mentioned by Mod Squid that grouping would actually equal better rewards, and this immediately made me think of the potential bot abuse that could come with this update, as a mass group of bots could in theory get better rewards than if they were to operate solo. I think Jagex really needs to keep an eye out for this, as it could flood the economy with log resources and hurt the current resource market for woodcutting. Another concern that I had was they mentioned there would not be resource competition with the forestry skill. Now, by removing resource competition, they are also opening up to the economy receiving endless supply, and when you combine that with bots potentially getting better rewards when they're massing, this is an absolute economic killer. Now, lucky for us, logs don't have a huge play in the market. They are kind of niche. They're used for fletching and fire making, but besides that, they don't have any major impact, which is a good thing. But sort of similar to my last point, this is something that the team needs to keep in mind going forward, as they could absolutely decimate the prices of logs. Let's move on to the next update, and that is the Desert Treasure 2 announcement. This is another amazing major economic impact update, guys. The Desert Treasure announcement is super specific, and Jagex during the summit announced that they were going to be releasing 4 new bosses with the Desert Treasure 2 quest, which is insane, and they stated that each of them was going to be similar to Vorkath. This is not only going to unlock new content and moneymakers that are going to drive the economy, but it's going to cause a massive rise in PvM gear in general in the coming months. Very similar to how items kind of started going up massively in price before Raids 3 in anticipation for the raids. Of course, though, this update was just announced, and we really don't have any real details on what gear is going to be used at these bosses, so I don't have any specific item investment advice for this one, but I will say, if you have been waiting to buy PvM gear, or there are any major upgrades that you need to buy them now. The economy is going to start trending upwards until this update drops due to hype, and with more information dropping about Desert Treasure 2 and the coming bosses in the future, this is going to further drive the economy and speculation, and prices are going to go up a ton. Also, keep in mind when these massive updates do drop, we do see a large shift of the player base coming back into the game, and we see a very active player base for about 2 weeks to a month after the update drops, which only further drives volume and investment. There's not too much to say about Desert Treasure 2 except the economy is likely to uptrend on all PvM items slowly until summer 2023 when Desert Treasure 2 is supposed to drop. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that Desert Treasure 2 and Way of the Forester are going to have the most major impacts on the economy, and since they're coming out in spring and summer of 2023, I think the update horizon right now for RuneScape is very positive. I did want to talk about some other updates that they talked about and why I don't think they have major economic impact at this point in time, but they're important to point out, and I want to explain why I don't think they do. Now, the first one is the Bounty Hunter return. So this was very exciting news to hear, but the reason I'm not very hyped about it from an economic standpoint is because Jagex didn't give a clear stance on the rewards. They mentioned that the rewards would likely be non-tradable, which means they're not going to have any impact on the economy. Now, the only thing that might bring some hype into the economy and see some increased demand is around the wilderness items until Bounty Hunter actually drops. But with no plans to have tradable rewards, we're not going to see any lasting impact on the economy. And honestly, I'm just kind of avoiding the Bounty Hunter, return overall because I don't think there's great opportunity. Another announcement that was obviously very hype was the new skill announcement, which I thought was super interesting, but considering they have no idea what skill they're going to even add, it's hard to really get excited about it. There's a lot of unknowns with this new skill update, which is just making me avoid it economically at this point in time, as we don't even know what the skill is going to be, and we don't know if it's going to pass the polls entirely. So it's really not worth it for me to speculate on the new skill at this moment in time. I think it's much safer to focus on Way of the Forester and Desert Treasure 2 investments to make a lot of money. Alright, as I'm a flipping and money-making channel, I wanted to give you all an analysis of what I'm doing in the coming months to take advantage of these updates, and how I'm going to handle gaining some massive profits. Right now, my main focus is on the Forestry update and the Desert Treasure 2 update. From a timeline standpoint, things are looking very positive in my eyes. I'll be looking to grab my investments in the next month or so, and hold on to them until spring and summer of 2023. From now until then, there is likely going to be a lot more news coming out about it, and some blog posts that will likely further drive investments that I'm looking at, which will further drive my potential profit. With such a major broadcast from the OSRS team, I had to make a video on how I think these future updates are going to affect the in-game economy. I hope you all found this video useful and it gave you some insight into how I think about these economic investments. Let me know in the comment section though what items you will be investing in for these future updates. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.